Hello again, guys. It's Gregola Productions here, and welcome back to another episode of the GPWS. Today, I've got a bit of a different episode here for you, and I actually need your help. So, be sure to get your comments ready to go because I need all the help I can get. So, what's going on here? Well, does anybody remember the Westclox Sphinx series? Greg, what the heck's a Sphinx? I don't know what the Westclox Sphinx. What are you talking about? Maybe I should start at the beginning. It must have started around 1948. It went from probably 1948 to 1954 or 55. Westclox had a line of electric clocks that were just great, design-wise. At least cosmetically, anyway. They were very visually appealing to look at. They went by the names of the Westclox Sphinx, the Greenwich. I believe the Logan was also involved. It wasn't designed in 48. It was designed earlier than that, but there was still a version of it available by 48. And there would have been other names as well. The Pittsfield. I don't think the Dash would have been one. The Sheraton would have been, depending on what year you buy it in. Anyway, there was a whole bunch of electric alarms that had a certain movement in them. And here's this movement right here. And these movements are great. Mostly. We'll get into that. We'll get into why I don't like a particular aspect of this. So if we just turn my light on here, we can get in here. This is the way it's supposed to face. It's facing up. Here's the back. There is a motor that mounts in here. It just clips in. We'll look at that later. It's a synchronous rotor. This is our bell mechanism here. Yes, this has a motorized bell in it. I absolutely love that fact. Our time train, if we just kind of get in here, there's one fiber gear. There's the power outage flag. This isn't working right on this particular clock. I'm not too worried about that. We got bigger fish to fry. The time train is good. If I just get my light a little closer. There's my time setting knob. Oh, look at that. You can see all the... Let me just stop moving this. You can see everything moving around in there. Nice and good. And I'm looking at this from a kind of upside down angle. So all these wheels here, if I get a pointer, I'll just grab a punch. Time train, time train. All of that's time train in the center. Keep going. And then we reach this area. And if I flip it over, maybe I should do it actually one more time. I'll show you guys this thing. Let's go around so you can get maybe a better perspective of this. Again, here's all the time train stuff. That's a little intermediate wheel that's riveted on, but that's also part of the time train. That works with this time setting knob right here. You can see all that. And then we get to, oh, there's their date stamp, I think. When is this guy made? Let's just look at this. And you can see there's the pivots on this, and I'll flip it back over so you can see the other side. What is this guy made? 8... Hold on, let's zoom in. What is that? 851, 2 watts. I think that's 851, possibly. So if, or wait, is that 2 watt? No, it is 2 watts. Yeah, I think it is 851. Okay, so for some reason hold on, I just gotta grab another one of these. I have 2 of them here. I'll just look at the date stamp on the other one. Okay, this other one has a bit of a different date stamp. If it'll focus. 853. That's what's... Oh, there we go. Okay, it's 2 watts on that. I don't know why the spacing is so weird on that other one, but anyway, that's not... Again, that's neither here or there, at least right now. These clocks came in fantastic cases. The names, I like the names, specifically the Sphinx. You know, you could probably just collect these on their own and get nothing else. It's sort of like the Stahl 66 in that respect, where there's just so many variants of it. But I don't know, electric alarms don't seem to interest people as much, which is, I guess, fine. It's all a matter of an opinion. But to keep things short, sweet, and concise, let's get into what I'm having a problem with. So I said this has a motorized bell alarm, which it does. And like any alarm clock, at least by Westclox, it has a sprung kind of an alarm tripping function on this, which involves spring tension. And you know what? I was about to say another word there, but I just said the entire thing. Spring and tension. Okay, so here's our alarm mechanism here. You can see there is a wheel going off of the time train, which interacts with this wheel, and this is like how every alarm clock, at least by Westclox, operates. There's a finger which spins around, even though the finger's in the wrong spot. Oh, there we go. Oh, where'd that washer go? Okay, there's a double D washer there, where you can see, there you go. The double D washer has been kicked to the side at the moment. That is just for stopping this shaft from going farther than it needs to. I'll put it on in a second here. But like any good Westclox, it has a finger that spins around, and when the alarm goes off, it goes in, and then that trips the alarm. And of course, we'll actually turn our alarm on here. So I've got a switch at the back, which I pull up. Actually, I'll give you a look at this. It comes on this kind of steel rod looking thing. That's what turns it off and on. So now it's on. So now all this stuff is pulled up. Boy, oh boy, this isn't working because that washer's not on here. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, there we go. So, as I said, there's the finger. I've put my washer in there, and as you can see, there's like a D shape on that shaft. It's not round. We'll talk about that more in a second. So, okay, so the clock runs. The clock runs. As you can see, my finger's moving. We'll talk about that in a second. The finger's not supposed to move. I'll just hold it so you can see. Clock runs, clock runs, clock runs. I was turning it backwards earlier. You can see that wheel's coming off the time train. Turns this wheel. That goes in there. Ignore all the oil for now, guys, on this thing. That goes in there, and what is supposed to happen is this tension spring is pushing up on this wheel. So what'll happen is when that finger trips into that slot, this gear over here, which you can see is it's got a slot of its own, and that spring has a slot in it as well. I know stuff's bent out of shape right now, guys. Don't worry about it. That spring there controls the tension on this, and when that spring is let go, when this wheel snaps up and this spring is pushed up, this wheel here is pushed up and it turns. Now what happens is that wheel, when it's pushed up, is now interacting with the fiber gear, which is being driven by the motor. So then this wheel is now turning, and then it drives this, which seemingly leads nowhere, which is the hammer. So it drives the hammer like that. And as you can see, when I turn the hammer, the fiber gear at the top starts moving. So the time train drives the alarm train in this. And the alarm train is very short in this. I think it's one of the shortest alarm trains I've ever seen in my entire life. But this is it. So what could be wrong with this problem other than the spring being kind of messed up? Well, to make sure that this is all under tension, this mechanism here, and if you don't understand what I'm talking about, guys, please comment, because you know, I'd like to get everybody on the same page here. Hopefully you can all understand. This arbor goes through the bell. Yes, this is the bell. This is also the back of the, and we'll look at the case in a second there. I just want to show you this first. We'll get there, guys. Don't worry. The shaft goes through the bell. It has the finger on there with splines, and then it goes through the front. And as you can see, there's nothing there. You can see there's this wheel here, which isn't attached to anything. It's just riveted on. How this is supposed to work is there is a little kind of paper disc that goes on here. And on top of that is a wheel with 3 springs pressed out of it. And if you see that gray substance, ignore that for now. You see those 3 springs there? This, and I'll just take this off so you can see it. So you can see this is square, right? That's not perfectly round, that's square. It's kind of an oval shape. With the paper on top, and this keeps these springs from scratching the plate, mounts on top of there. And that wheel is not designed to ever come off. Okay? This is never supposed to come off. Because when you're dismantling this, you're meant to take this knob off, as far as I know. And this knob, getting this off is a whole different story. I might need a gear puller for that. But that's a different story, as I said. I don't know why this wasn't riveted just onto the shaft and this could just stay with the plate forever. But no. This was pressed onto that shaft, and once this wheel pops off, it will not go back on. That is what I'm struggling with. And if you get it on, and if you don't get that tension tight enough, this finger here will end up moving. And as you can see, I just turned that and it fell off, but that's because it wasn't on very tight. This finger will not work. It'll do what it's doing right now. The alarm will just reset itself as the clock runs, which is not something that these would have done originally. And no alarm clock should ever do that, because then the alarm is resetting itself and then you don't get to work on time. Or you get, you sleep in or something. So this is what I need your help with, guys. This wheel, and if you want, I can make more videos on this. This wheel has given me agony for probably upwards of 3 years now. I've had this is off of the, well, it's a complicated story of what movement this belongs to now. But we'll just say for now, this is the Sphinx movement. This is the Westclox Sphinx movement here. Here's the case. Wooden case. I don't have the dial handy at the moment where you can see it. Here's the attachable motor and coil. And as you can see, I look kind of terrible from this angle, but I have attached a new power cord onto this thing. This is the type of motor this uses. This motor works great. It works very quiet, nice and good. Here's the back plate. Pull alarm, there you go. It says Sphinx, S7H, 115 volts, AC, 60 cycles, 2.5 watts, made in Canada. This is a Canadian product. Like this channel, this is a Canadian channel, in a Canadian house, in a Canadian basement. You see what I'm getting at? So, this wheel, I have tried all kinds of things. I've tried using my hole closing punches, which, to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of them is. I know I just explained it, but in a clock working world where when a bushing goes bad, when a bushing wears out, you drill a hole and you replace the bushing. In the old days, like in the 1700s, if a bushing wore out, you'd have something like this, and you just take one of these guys, put it in the bushing, and hammer it on, and they probably weren't as... I mean, this has a spring in it, so I don't know. This is a number... Oh, it's number 6. Okay. I got 7 punches here. These are designed to close holes. I don't know if it's bushing holes or some other type of hole. I think they're specific to the clock repair world, but I don't know for sure. These came off of eBay. Somebody made this custom box for them. Really neat. Really neat box. Too bad they didn't stain this. But anyway. Yeah. These punches, I've tried to close this hole, press this on, get it nice and tight. No matter what I do, this will either, well, even if it stays on, that tension just is not right. And as you can see, there's gray residue on this thing. That is JB Weld epoxy. I had this thing epoxied on here for a time. And what happened was it stayed on, but it loosened up because this wheel is constantly being pulled on. And just to illustrate that, you can see, like, when the finger moves up this track here, this wheel is getting pulled on from the center inwards. That brass bushing in there, which has just fallen off, I know, I'm not like slamming it on or anything right now. That brass bushing needs to be tight. It needs to have some kind of grip in there. I don't know if for epoxy, JB Weld was able to hold it, but it wasn't able to keep that tension that you need for this particular design. And before you say, well, Greg, what kind of idiotic design is this? Other clocks had this design, but the difference was they had this shaft where you could remove the shaft from the wheel, and the wheel stayed with the plate, and the wheel permanently kept the tension with the plate, but the shaft was free to go wherever the heck it wanted if you needed to take it out. This is the only design where I've seen this work this particular way, where this shaft and this wheel are permanently stuck together like that. And if you are working on one of these, do not take this wheel off. You will be in a huge mess if you do, and you will struggle for the last 3 years, like I have, to get this thing apart, or get this thing on again with good tension so it actually works right, and it functions as an alarm clock. Maybe that's a little too intense, but you get the idea. Okay, I've been exploring different ways, like, I've gone, like, I'm looking into epoxy, I'm looking, I don't know, pressing, like, a hole closing punch. Since this isn't perfectly round, I don't know if this will work in that way, because this has, like, a D shape in it, this hole here. I don't know if you can even see that, but this has kind of a D shape. Well, does it have a D shape now? Oh yeah, there you go. I think you can see it better there. Where if I stick this on just any old way, it won't go on. But you have to spin this to the point where it lines up with that D, and then it'll want to go on. And I'm not even there yet as I speak here. Oh, there we go. I'll just take this paper disc off for now because we're not going to install it. I'll make sure the finger is always, you know, tripped so the shaft is the farthest out it can possibly be. So yeah, that goes in there. Oh, come on. I'm not even doing this right. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so you can see it's in there, and it goes a certain way. That's the point. So I don't know if a circular hole closing punch would work. I've even thought of threading this to the point where you just turn this wheel and screw it on. I don't know. That's actually not a bad idea, but I don't know. Like, I have a tap and die set, so, you know, I can install threads on this if need be. I don't know if I can install threads in here, and I don't know if I can install threads on something that's not perfectly circular, because this is not perfectly circular, and, you know, I don't even know if that'll work in this scenario. I'd love to install threads on this, because that could mean that this could come off, you know. If anyone had to service this for any reason, you could easily just take this off, and away you go. But that's not the case here. This was pressed on at the factory. This would have taken a grand total of 1 millisecond to do, probably. But once it comes off, you know, you're in for a huge disaster. So as you can see, there was epoxy on this. As you can see, it's been ground here a bit at the top. That shouldn't affect my grip on this. That's not damage that's particularly important. I have not made this wheel completely unusable, and if I have a few extras. So I have a grand total of 3 of these wheels from 3 different clocks that have all suffered this problem, and I'm not sure how to fix this. I have tried, as I said, epoxy. I don't know if this surface is even big enough for epoxy to work right. I don't know if it was clean enough for epoxy to work right. I have looked at brazing. It looks like you'd have to get like a gas torch for that. I don't know. I'm not sure, or sorry, like a let's try welding equipment. I'm not gonna pretend like I know anything about welding because I don't. So, you know, that looks big and expensive. Also, I don't know if it would even work because this is, you know, this is steel and brass, not brass to brass or steel to steel. I've looked at industrial adhesives. That's the route I'm looking at right now. But I feel like there's a lot more experience, like there's plenty of guys out there with more experience than I have. So what do you guys think? I mean, these electric clocks were designed to be appliances, right? And I mean that in the sense is, if anything ever goes wrong with it, we either A, don't service it, or B, we might service it, but probably not. C would be it goes in the garbage and it's done and it's obsolete after that. If it doesn't want to work, then we're not even going to waste time on it. We're just going to throw it out. Oh, that feels so good to just say all that. You have no idea how long I've wanted to film this video for. This is the rebooted Westclox Sphinx series. We are working on this electric clock, which wasn't meant to be serviced. I don't care. We're doing it anyway. And because these look great and they're a piece of history, and I think it's worth trying to do these things, trying to work on these things, even if others don't. But you know what? We're gonna try at least. We're gonna do something here, because you know this stuff isn't made anymore, and even in this condition, like the time train alone is 1,000 times better than any quartz matic. stuff you see today. So I think this is absolutely worth working on, in my eyes anyway, because I'm a really big fan of these things. I love the way they look. I like that this thing has a motorized bell in it as well. That's fantastic. I think these would be great clocks to have and have serviced and have running. So, for those of you who remember the Sphinx from my previous series on it, it was just one giant gong show of, and to put it simply, one giant gong show of me trying to figure out what the heck this time train was all about, how this all worked, and why this wouldn't go on, which I never figured out. We're figuring that part out now. So, yeah, I just unlisted all of those videos because it was just a total, it took long, and it just was so inconsistent. I don't know, it was me, I didn't know what I was doing, basically. I'm a little more experienced now, so I think I can handle this. But back in the day, I had no clue. And, I mean, there was no one really well, I guess there was people to help, but I didn't ask for help. I'm asking for help right now, if that makes anybody feel any better. So, I don't know what to do here. Do you know a way of adhering this wheel to that right there, that little square arbor, or that oval arbor, whatever the heck? We'll have one more look at that. I don't know. Do you guys know some way? Would threading be a good idea? Would a tap and die set even fit that? I mean, it's so small, and plus I can't even get this, well, I don't know if threads would work. I really don't. It's got some rounded edges, but you know, it could be perfectly round, but it's not, so I don't know if that would work. I don't know if a tap and die set would work for one like that. Yeah, so the original Sphinx series was taken down because it just got way too convoluted. And I know there's other series on this channel that aren't finished yet. Just keep your heads up, guys. I'll see what I can do. I'll try and make update videos on whatever projects that are currently unfinished, like the Style 6 Baby Ben or other stuff like that. But anyway, if you want to ask about that, ask in the comments. If you have some idea here of how to get this wheel permanently attached to this, as I said, the knob is supposed to come off. So if you ever needed to take this apart, this knob would come off, you'd pull the bell off, and this whole shaft would permanently stay on here. You know what I mean? That's how this was meant to work. But, you know, we can't, you know, in these situations when this wheel pops off, which seems to be a fairly common occurrence, at least nowadays, when these things are 60 plus years old, you know, this is what's happening. This is the state these are in now, so we got to figure out some kind of way to fix it. I haven't seen any other attempts made to do anything. A lot of people are scared to touch electric clocks because of reasons like this and because of rivets and stuff like that. I can't blame them. But hey, I have to go and go into that unexplored territory and fight the battles that I need to fight. So, yes, we are talking, I'm not talking about going to Mars, I'm talking about working on an alarm clock, but that's okay. Oh, and by the way, this wheel not only needs to stay on there, but it needs to withstand some tension. Not like, I don't know, not a huge amount, but just enough for this to work right, and just enough for this whole assembly to be nice and tight and stay together, and that's it. So guys, I hope you have some idea here, because I really don't. I'm still looking into different methods, but I feel like there's some rare clock repair method out there that I haven't heard of, and that I think epoxy might have been going the wrong way to begin with. So this is where we're at. I feel like there's some method I don't know, and I feel like you guys know it. So this is me asking for viewer assistance here, and if this works out, you know, everybody will be able to work on these things, and there will be no fear, and we can all have mid-century alarm clocks with a motorized bell in our houses. Doesn't that sound great? What kind of nonsense am I in here? Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by and checking this out, and if there are updates, I will post part 2 and continue on with this stuff. As for the time train, servicing this clock, other details like that, we're not going to worry about those right now. We're just going to worry about this specific section and maybe I'll talk about servicing these later on. If this gets all straightened around, I'll probably buy another one of these and then just do a series on it. So, yeah, this is what's going on, guys. Thanks for stopping by, and please feel free, even if you think your idea is the stupidest thing you've ever thought of in your entire life, just post it. It could lead to something. You know, Dougal had a really great idea. Yes, Dougal, the Pin Palette 20, aka the VACC. The both of us have been kind of obsessing over this clock, and you know, we've been trying to work it out. I wouldn't say we've made progress, but we've had ideas and tried different methods, and things haven't worked as of yet. So I'm asking all of you if you have some idea that the two of us guys haven't thought of, and that, you know, the small circle of people I know on Discord haven't thought of. So that is what is going on, guys. I know I've said that thrice. Video's over now. Please feel free to comment, even if you think it's a dumb idea. Oh, and by the way, just in case anyone thinks it, I have tried using punches, you know, just to punch this back on. That hasn't worked. Even, like, the wheel has gone on again, but the tension, that permanent, locked-in way how it was before, where it wouldn't come off, that has not been restored. I have tried punching this thing back on. It hasn't worked. I've tried, as I said, epoxy, and I've tried the hole closing punches. They didn't work either. I think that's all I've tried thus far. So, yeah, by the way, JB, like, this thing popped off with not too much force with my stainless steel pry bar. It didn't take that much effort to pop this thing off, but it was tight on there. So, even though the tension was wrong, I think it could have survived a long time just staying on there, but the tension was wrong. So if the tension's wrong on it, then this thing is, you know, it's useless. You can't use it as an alarm. So what's the point in keeping it that way? It makes no difference if it's either here or on here. Either it works or it doesn't. So those are 3 methods that I've tried thus far. If you have anything else, please comment.